Hello, my Aloha tribe, and welcome back to the Aloha Perspective. Happy Wednesday. It is hump day, hump day, hump day, hump day. I know I did not plan on taking the majority of October off, but I think it's something I really needed. I kept saying it was because this, that, or the other, but to be honest with you, it was the first time in so long that there was really some kind of, my brain is always running and running and running. There's always chatter happening in my brain, but it was the first time in a long time where my brain felt at peace. And I just needed to take a break. And then the break got longer and longer and longer. And then at some point I thought, well, I don't want to force myself back because I don't want to put anything out there that's not me. That's not me at my, whatever I'm at. I've always been very honest about my mental health. I've always been very honest about where I stand with it. There are some days where I just couldn't do a show because I had spiraled or this, that, or the other. But I needed that break because I started this show in July of 2020. And I did it then because, there was so much turmoil and so much anger and so much just upending, right, in that year that's still kind of continuing on today. And I wanted to put some light back into the world. I wanted to put some fun, some joy back into the world. So, I kept going pretty much nonstop. The only time I would take time off is if I would have like a sinus migraine, which is not a migraine, but it's the same kind of pain, but a different form of it. Usually when the weather changes. I get this from my mother, and also when we have our Santa Ana winds, because those are crazy. But so yeah, or if I wasn't feeling well, or if I had spiraled. But I never took time off just for me. When I'd go on vacation, I would do the show. I'd go live from wherever it was I was at. And I think because of that, I just put a lot of pressure on myself. And I just needed to kind of take a step back. When I'm on vacation, if I want to do a live, I didn't have to make it this huge thing. It could have been just something about the area I was in, but it really was like work. This is like work. I always have to come up with something. I shoot off the cuff. All right. So I freewheel it off the top of my head. There are times when I do make notes, and most of the time that's just kind of to keep me on track. But for the most part, it's what's in my heart. It's what's in my head. It's what I feel maybe, the world could use at this moment. And it's not always, it's not always bright and cheery. I had a whole thing planned today about everything that's happening in some of these countries where there's just wars happening, and I'm actually going to make that a part of my gratitude today, but I'm going to share part of that here. We need to be grateful that we don't have to worry if we go somewhere that we're going to be kidnapped, or gunned down or whatever. We should be grateful that we don't have to go to sleep wondering if, we're going to wake up to our neighbors or if we're going to wake up at all the next day. And it's not about choosing sides. It's about the humanitarian part of us, inside of us, that sees all the innocent people stuck in the middle of political garbage, all the innocent people who are hurting, who are suffering. It doesn't matter what side you're on. There really shouldn't be a side. Imagine what would happen if we all sat down and got to know one another. And to some people that seems like, oh yeah, that's stupid. That's never going to happen. Then you know why it doesn't happen? Because we say things like that. Because we say, oh, that's stupid. It's never going to happen. If we sit down and listen to one another, we sit down and take the time to get to know each other. Imagine how much different this world could be. This world is never going to be a perfect place. It's just simple. It's never going to be a perfect place. And if it was a perfect place, we'd be bored. We would, it would be perfectly imperfect because we would need to find something wrong. Somebody would sit there and go, oh my God, this is stupid. It's monotonous. It's the same thing. Monotony is not a bad thing. Seriously, monotony is not a bad thing. It's how you learn things, right? But too much of the same thing. And it's like, if you're learning something, great. But if you're it becomes like how we are now, right? You get up, you do your thing in the morning, you go to work, you come home, you go back to sleep, you start the cycle over Monday through Friday or whatever days you work. Then the weekend comes and you're either too tired to do something or you got more stuff to do. Maybe you have kids and you got more stuff to do. And then one day you're just so tired, right? Because it's the same thing. That's what would happen, in my opinion, if we had a perfect world. But we can still shoot for perfectly imperfect. We can still sit down and get to know one another. We can still, I wish I could remember what organization this was, but Sibling had recorded 60 Minutes a couple years ago, and we saw this man's organization, and what they try to do is bring people together that wouldn't normally talk to one another and remove all politics. And they did it, one with a far right woman and a far left woman. I mean, like two people who would probably never sit down and talk to each other. They put them at a table and they sit there for an hour just chatting. And they're not allowed to bring up politics. They're not allowed to bring up any kind of politics. They talk about themselves, their work, their job, their families. Turns out both of them were career women who were parents and wives who lived in the suburbs. And the only thing really that separated them, the only thing that ever kept them apart, because they even said to one another, if you didn't know each other's politics coming in here and you just met on the street, would you be friends? And they're all, yeah, we have so much in common. But imagine that. They had so much in common, and the only thing holding them apart were politics. There are always innocent people in the middle of politics. Politics is what's happening way up there, and everybody else gets screwed at the bottom. And I don't care what your politics are. Seriously, I don't. Like I said, I'm not here to tell people to pick a side. I'm in the center. And when you stand in the center, you tend to see both sides. You tend to see the good and the bad. And, sometimes, well, never mind. I don't want to bring my politics into this. But seriously, I do stand in the center. Even politically, I'm in the center. And that's where all the people that we need to be concerned about are. Those are where all the people who deserve to live a good life are. A lot of us will make comments, not knowing the full history of the certain things that are happening in this world. And there's a lot of things happening in this world. I mean, yes, there's the Israel and Gaza thing happening. There's the Ukraine-Russian war happening. There's a lot of turmoil in this country happening between people, and because everybody wants their opinion to be fact. Fact is, an opinion's opinion. I mean, sure, some things are based on fact, but a lot of times we don't want to listen when things are based on fact because our opinions are much stronger than what the actual truth is. So I advise, what you don't know, search it out, look it up, do your research. Okay. But in the meantime, just remember this. There are a lot of people hurting in this war and in this world. There are a lot of people who are suffering that had nothing to do with what's happening. There are a lot of people hurting and dying because of what's happening in this world. There are people protesting against each other. Imagine again what would happen if somebody sat down and said, look, I can't help what my ancestors did. I can't help what 2 generations ago did, or even 1 generation ago did. But what if we meet in the middle? And yeah, you're probably sitting here, there are going to be people who watch this going, you're dreaming. But if we don't dream, how do we change anything? If we don't dream, how do we change anything? If we don't hope aloud for peace, or for something good, or for more love and light being put into this world, how can we change? See, there was a long time ago where I didn't think, the whole world was just, it's shit, I'm going to die. I'm just going to live my life and one day I'm going to die. But now I realize I have a gift of speech. I have a gift of writing. I have a gift of all these words that just sit inside of my head all day long, even when I'm trying to go to sleep. I dream every night. I dream in color every night. I don't actually know anybody that ever dreamt in black and white, so I don't know where that came from. But yeah, and I'm sorry. I know I'm a little nervous because really I'm going off the cuff here. This is not even the direction I wanted to take with this show. But the point is that I'm fully aware of what's happening in this world. I don't talk about it much because I'm not educated enough on it. And I'm not going to sit out there and put an opinion out there without knowing both sides. Because there are 2 sides to every story. Do I like the terrorists that are sitting in Palestine? Hell no. Hamas is not on my favorite people list. I don't like terrorists, foreign or domestic, period. But behind those people are people who just want to be free. But on the other side are people who are tired of being attacked. So right now, what's playing out are two governments just, bullying each other and doing whatever it is they have to do to one another to get the upper hand. And then there's everybody else down here going, oh crap, who's suffering. So, and again, like I said, I'm not educated enough to talk about this when it comes to all this. I don't know the history. I know in 1948, there was a big land grab. And I'm not even sure that that's the appropriate way of putting it. But there was a big land grab in Gaza. And, like I said, I can't talk more on that because I just really started educating myself the other day on the train when I was coming home and reading about all this. And it hasn't all stuck in my head yet. But what I do know is that was 75 years ago. And this isn't the first time they've been at war with one another. I mean, it's kind of been happening over the last 75 years. 75 years ago, there was another skirmish of sorts. And imagine all these people that were born in late 1948 or after, who've never known a free place, who've never had their own place. But we don't think about that. I didn't even know that. I had no idea. I was talking about it with sibling yesterday. She had no idea. She said, well, I think we heard a little bit about it in our history books. I never learned about it in my history books. So, like I said, I'm not picking a side. I'm just asking people to stop and think. To put yourself in both people's shoes. Imagine what would happen. And I tend to think this is a thing where somewhere in this little area is like a Romeo and Juliet thing happening. Two people on two different sides, everybody's fighting. Or like I told Laura, or sibling, I said, in a way, it kind of reminds me of the Hatfields and the McCoys, right? That's a big feud that happened here in the United States back in the olden days, right? I don't know if it was the turn of the 19th century or turn of the 20th century or somewhere in the 19th century. So somewhere in the 1800s, 20th century, whatever. And that was a real thing. That was an absolute real thing. But that was two families, okay? That wasn't two countries or two places. But just imagine what would happen if they sat down and talked, which I know is difficult. I mean, we call them terrorists. They call themselves ideologists. And ideology, that's a scary thing, because when you have ideology, and there are political groups in this country that have ideology of how things should be. Not how they can be, how they should be, without working together. And, we saw that happen. That whole thing showed its cards and showed its hand on January 6th. I know. To me, those are domestic terrorists. I'm sorry. I don't care if you agree with me or not, but they were. They were. You do not attack an institution of this country and think that, it's a freedom fight. It's not a freedom fight. People want things their way. Other people want things their way. Imagine what would happen if both of them met in the middle. Just imagine. Imagine if people stopped fighting so much for power and actually sat down and talked to one another. That's what this whole perspective is about. It's about learning to sit down with people we disagree with and have an adult conversation about something and maybe fill each other in on what's happening. Because somewhere in the middle of everybody's opinions is the actual truth, is the actual facts. But for me, I'm on the side of the people who don't want any part of this big old thing happening over there. All the innocent people, all the people wondering if when they go to sleep at night, are they going to wake up the next morning? Are they going to wake up to less family and friends? People that are afraid to go to a music festival because they're afraid of being kidnapped or shot to death by somebody or being chased away during something that was supposed to be fun and exciting for them. Only to be tortured and paraded through the streets or murdered and paraded through the streets. These are the things that are happening on both sides. But we keep forgetting That these are the people who had nothing to do with the politics. And over here, they're protesting. There's a lot of protests. And, you know, I've seen posts of Jewish people marching with Palestinian people, saying, hey, we get it. We hear you. These are people who are learning to talk to one another. But then we have other ones where people are just fighting back and forth. They're not hearing each other. They're just fighting. And for what? Because somebody wants to be right? Nobody's right in war. Sure, somebody might win, but is it really a win? At what cost? At what cost was World War I, World War II, the Vietnam War? You know, I mean, people came back so messed up after those wars. I mean, so messed up. And because we have zero, well, maybe not zero anymore, but back then, because we had zero tolerance for mental health, they fell victim and became a victim of their own mind, their own memories, their own shell-shocked states. I mean, these guys saw some crappy shit out there. People are seeing the same thing now, except it's being fought in their own front yards, in their own backyards. So what do we do? So I just wanted to make it a point to let people know that I do know what's going on. But my job in this world is to do my best to put this positivity out there, to put this light out there, to put this love out there, to put out there something that somebody can hold on to when their times get dark. Mental health has always been my focus since I started this show, because mine was getting a little wrecked. I just lost my job a few months earlier when COVID hit. I couldn't go anywhere. I was so isolated. I mean, fortunately, older sibling and I are roommates, so at least I wasn't alone. At least I wasn't alone. I had more than just cats to talk to. I had a human to talk to. But this is my job. You know, I'll leave the politics to other people. There are times when I'll retweet something that I 100% agree on, because I agree that there is a level of humanitarianism. Is that a word? Am I making things up again? I don't know. But there's a level of humanitarianism that we really need to sit next to and embrace. Because, like I said, there's a lot of people who don't want any of this stuff happening on both sides. That just, you know, want to be at peace. And they deserve that. Who just want to get along with their neighbors. Who don't want to sit there and have to rebuild. My mom was born 75 years ago. And all I could think of was, you know, she was born free. Sorry, the song's in my head now. But anyway, I digress. I just want people to think about that for a little bit. You know, just try to put yourself in the shoes of what you would deem your enemy and see where they're thinking. You know, I've tried. There are certain times when I just can't, but I have tried. And because sometimes things are just like, really? Do you know that that's not fact, right? And I mean, what is fact, right? It's something that's printed, not by a newspaper, not by anything, but by laws. You know, I mean, it's a law, period. And that doesn't make it fact. It just makes it somebody's opinion that is official, right? Everything really is an opinion. I mean, there are facts in our life, like the day you're born, the time you're born, the day you die, and the time you die. I mean, you know, we marked my mom's death at 7:07, but to be honest with you, it could have been 7:05, 7:06, whatever. We don't know. But it's a fact on paper. And if none of this makes sense, I do apologize, but my brain literally is some kind of version of organized chaos. But I wanted to make that point. I really wanted to make the point about those two women who, you know, this organization brought together and sat down and made them talk. Like I said, two women who would have never, ever engaged with one another outside of this experiment. Who suddenly realized, wow, we're not so different, are we? You know, our politics are just different. And I don't know that they became friends after that. Probably not. I mean, you know, it was an hour that they talked to one another. But I really think it made them think. I think it really made them try to understand one another. There's nothing more that bothers me than when, you sit down and someone starts talking politics and you tell them your side and all of a sudden they start yelling at you. Oh, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. It's like, no, it's an opinion. Okay? My opinion's my opinion, your opinion's your opinion. Somewhere in the middle is probably the truth. Okay? Unless you actually know that what you're stating is facts. I don't go into arguments without facts. If I don't know something about something, I'm not going to talk about it. Or I'll talk about it enough where I can give you my opinion. Like I said, I don't have enough history and enough knowledge of what's happening over there in Gaza and Israel. I know what I see on the news. I know what has happened. I know about the terrible taking of hostages and killing people. That is so not right. Not right. I know people have a lot of opinions about why Hamas is in control. I don't even like saying their name because, that gives them power. That gives them acknowledgement. I fucking hate those people. Because they are holding their own people hostages, in my opinion. In my opinion. But again, that's my opinion. That's ideology, right? They look at us as being the terrorists. They look at us as being the people who are in the wrong. I mean, when you stop and think about it, everybody's like, oh yeah, the Crusades, right? The first and second Crusades are in our history books, but they never stopped. They never ended. I mean, there's still people shooting each other up over religion. So, it's just not on the biggest scale anymore because now we have, modern technology that spreads everything everywhere really fast. But it also spreads misinformation really fast. Social media can radicalize people really fast. And when you know the right ways to push those buttons, you're going to push the right ones on certain people. And you're going to, and who knows, chaos is going to ensue. So I want to make it very clear that no, I'm not a fan of, the people that are holding their own people hostage, in my opinion. They're not giving them what they need. They're, and maybe I'm wrong on that, but, when you have two planes get run into two of your biggest landmarks, you tend to hold on to that for a very long time. So, domestic or foreign, I do not like terrorists, period. I don't care what your ideologies are. When you hurt other people because of your ideologies, that goes from being, an ideology to just being radicalized. And that doesn't sit well with me, period. It goes against everything I believe in. I've fought my own darkness. That's one of the reasons why I ended up taking October off, is because it was the first time in maybe ever in my life that I didn't have some sort of suicidal ideation, that I didn't have, a thought that says I'd be better off, my family and friends would be better off without me. I didn't have a thought of saying, hey, you know what, those 3 near attempts that I almost had, let's just make them a thing. I didn't have a pity party. And I'm not saying people who have suicidal ideation are having a pity party. They're not. That's just what I'm saying about me. When I'm not going through those things. I took the time to just learn about myself. And it's a little scary. I was scared to come back on the perspective because I'm at reset. I'm at 0. And I have no idea what, I want to say I have no idea what, I'm putting into this world. But whatever it is I'm putting into this world, I want it to be good. I want it to be something that helps somebody. I want it to be something that, keeps somebody from stepping off that ledge or taking those pills or using that blade. That's what I want. I want people to know that they're worth it. I want people to know that they're loved. I want people to know that they are 100% absolutely cared about, even if you've never met them in person. I want people to know that they matter. And everybody matters. We can hate and hate and hate and hate. But that's the easy way. Sitting down with somebody who does not have the same beliefs as you, that takes strength. That takes, some kind of thing inside of you that says, if they say something you don't agree with, just count to 10. Just stay quiet. There's not going to be a winner in this conversation. There's just going to be 2 people who are going to get pissed off and walk away with the same opinions. So just stay quiet. And I've had people saying, oh, so you must think I'm right because I'm quiet, or because you're quiet. And I'm like, no, I'm quiet because I don't want to fight, because it's not worth it. We're literally going in circles here, saying the same thing over and over again. And I've heard you, but you're not hearing me. So it's just easier for me to stay quiet. And sometimes even that sets them off. But I've learned I have to pick my battles. I used to knee jerk so bad because I had a lot of anger. I had a lot of pain inside of me. I had a lot of just discontent or malcontent or whatever you want to call it. And yet there was an outside part of me, the hugger, the person smiling, the hey, how's it going? Because I didn't want other people to feel the way I did. I didn't want people to know how I felt because I didn't want pity. I didn't want people to see inside of my eyes, see my eyes and how sad they really were. How my smile didn't meet my eyes. And how when I smiled, my eyes were just the same. They weren't like this. They were just kind of like, you know. I look at pictures and I see when I was fake smiling. And I didn't even realize I was doing it at the time. Because there were two parts of me. And now these parts are whole. And I'm learning to be that hugger again. I'm learning to be that outgoing person again, because that's me. That's me. I don't talk a lot about politics, like I said, because I don't know enough about it. I have opinions, and my opinions are my own. Absolutely my own. But what I do have is a heart and a soul. And what hurts me more than anything is to see innocent people dying, being paraded through streets on both sides, guys, both sides. People afraid of going to sleep because they're not sure if they're going to wake up the next day. People afraid of going outside because they don't know what's going to happen. This is why we have to fight for a better world. We have to fight for people to sit down and talk to one another, to stop knee-jerking one another, to stop meeting in the courtyard at 3 o'clock after school for a fight. What does that settle? What? One person's the bully, the other one's the victim? No, it's stupid. There's nothing that gets solved that way. You want to see people pummel each other? Watch sports. Watch hockey. Watch football. On occasion, watch baseball. You know? I'm sorry, I got choked up there a bit because it hurts. It hurts to see how this world is becoming. Where people just, you know, they pick a side and just decide, oh, well, that's right. I'm here for the innocent people. I'm here for the people who are hurting. Doesn't matter where in this world they are. For the people that feel like there's no hope. For the people that feel like the world has given up on them. Like maybe their higher power has given up on them. I'm here for the people who still turn to their higher power, hoping for something better. Because boy, that takes strength. That takes a level of faith that most of us will never understand. You know, asking for this, that, or the other, as opposed to saying, hey, please let me wake up tomorrow. That's way different. That takes a level of faith to be able to sleep enough because you feel protected. And I'm not stupid. I mean, anything can happen anywhere at any time. I could walk outside and something bad could happen to me. But that's a random event. What's happening in these places where there are wars happening, where there are these battles happening, that's the reality. So like I said, to have that level of faith, wow, that's amazing. So anyways, I didn't think I was going to talk this long, but I just wanted to clear that up. And also the reason I came back today, I'm going to end this on a happy note. The reason I came back today is because even though I started the show under a different name in July of 2020, today is the second birthday of the Aloha Perspective. So 2 years ago today, on my nephew Victor's birthday, Victor Crumb. He was named after the Harry Potter character because baby sibling is a Harry Potter fanatic, as am I. But yeah, she read the books and saw the movies. I just seen the movies. But his birthday and Sissy Joe's birthday. And I think the reason I did it, the interesting thing is the first one I started on July 9th, which is older siblings, mom Barbara's birthday. And it was the day after my parents' anniversary. And, you know, I was really hurting because, you know, two very, very important women in my life, Mom Barbara and my own mother, you know, were gone. It would have been my parents' anniversary on July 8th and Mom Barbara's birthday on the 9th of July, which is when I started this 3 years ago. And then I was feeling a little blue, and it felt like the show was going, I don't know where I felt like the show was going, but I thought, you know what, Sissy Joe would tell me to keep going. And like I said, it just happened to be that Victor was born on her birthday. So, you know, so happy birthday to them, and happy birthday to the Aloha Perspective. And so now that you know that I'm trying to come from a place of love, light, and understanding, and put a little sunshine into this world, into this dark, dark world, I do want you to know I see things, I pay attention, but my job, like I said, is to remind people that there is hope, that there is, you know, something to be said about having faith. You know, you don't even have to have a higher power to have faith. You just have to have faith that things somehow will work out, and we can hope, right? Hope is actually more, to me, hope is stronger than faith, because you're truly believing. You are hoping for the best. You are, you know, well, maybe they kind of go together. I don't know. The other day when I thought about that thought, it made sense. Today, it's a whole nother story. But it doesn't mean I'm not going to be a dork on the show. However, I'm going back to my humble beginnings, when the show used to be called The Daily Vibe, back in July on the 9th of 2020. We're going to go back through the affirmators deck. Okay, I know everything's backwards. I don't give a shit. My friend told me how to flip it. It felt so weird because, I mean, looking at me in the mirror, or a reverse, it's like being on the other side of the mirror, right? So no, I'm just like, you'll deal with it. Okay, that's kind of the signature of this show, is everything being backwards, right? And then and also my other glasses. I was going to get another pair of glasses, but I'm not going to be able to just yet. So you're stuck with these for now. But yeah, we're going to go back to the affirmators deck. So I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know if I'm going to do a show tomorrow or Friday. I'm just getting back into the swing of this. But when I do start, we are going to go full force. Okay? So if I do come back tomorrow, great. If I do come back Friday, great. If not, I am definitely going to restart on Monday. What is Monday? The 13th? I think it's the 13th. So I am definitely going to restart back up Monday the 13th. And we're going to do the affirmators deck. And we're going to go through all 50 affirmation cards to help you help yourself without the self-helpiness. All right? These are the fun cards. And so whether you're having a good day, a bad day, or anywhere in between, watch these. Because these are fun. They make a lot of sense. They turn lessons into something extraordinary. I was going to say a whole different word. Extraordinary. And I mean that. Just as a sample, right? And don't worry, this card will go back in the deck. But just as an example. Oh, look, the top card, peacefulness, right? I have a peaceful, tranquil, and untroubled heart. This is where I choose to spend my time. I can bring guests, but any person, thought, or event that brings drama or chaos is not invited. My heart is a special property, and I'm going to keep it that way so we can all keep enjoying it, and I can get my security deposit back. So you see what I mean there? They're the self-helpy cards without being self-helpy. Okay, so we're going to get back to those. The Aloha Perspective is going to go back to its roots, and we're going to go from there. So that's 50 days, pretty much probably now until the end of the year, that we don't really have to think about anything. We can just go. All right. So I hope everybody has a good day, a wonderful, wonderful day. Whatever kind of day you want to have. If you're moving through stuff that's hurting, move through it. You got to go through it to grow through it. Even when it hurts, you got to feel it to heal it. But also, maybe as a homework assignment, when you're mad at something or someone, take the time to step into their shoes. That doesn't mean that they're right in your mind, okay? That doesn't mean that you ever want to live or walk in those shoes, because there are some people in this world that are just so nasty that, you know, they don't deserve other people walking in their shoes. That they're never going to change their minds, because they like being angry. They like being spiteful. They hide behind their ideologies because, you know, they have to be right. Trust me when I say this, being right is not always the greatest thing. I always tried to be right. Now it's kind of like, oh, I got humbled a few times this weekend with my dad. It's like, oh, okay, my bad. But yeah, and they were just simple, silly things, you know, like, yeah, well, why are you taking this freeway? Why are you taking, you know, like, I know, right? Because my dad still lives in my hometown. I don't. It's like, oh yeah, you're right. So, but in the past, it'd be just like, well, whatever. But now it's like, oops. It's like, yeah, I told you, you know, you just make a joke out of it. And then we laughed instead of fighting. So go in peace, go in love, go in joy, go in understanding, go in, I guess I'm gonna repeat it, peace. Because we can make this a livable world. Like I said, nothing's ever perfect. Nothing's ever going to be perfect. But we can start putting love into this world and light into this world, one person at a time. We can stand and get people to talk to each other that wouldn't normally talk to each other. You know, just say, hey, why don't you two sit down and actually see how much you have in common, you know, before you start fighting. A lot of us fight the wars of other people. A lot of us fight the pains and the memories of our ancestors, of our, you know, the people that we feel were wronged in life, and we carry that anger and we carry that pain. But at some point, it's no longer our pain to carry. It's our pain to heal. It's our job to heal things. It's our job to be the mediators, to get people to start looking at one another, not with hate in their eyes, but with love in their hearts. And like I said, there are going to be people out there that are going to say, you're dreaming, you're stupid, you know, blah, blah, blah. That's not possible. But you know what? I think it is. I really do think it is. I know if I can change, and I never thought I'd change. I thought I was going to be angry my whole life. I thought I was going to live in this, you know, literal, well, figurative, I should say, not literal, figurative darkness for my whole life. That there was always going to be this big black hole inside of me that just was eating me alive from the inside. But for as much as I pushed back and kicked and screamed and yelled, definitely yelled, didn't kick and scream for real, but definitely yelled, there were people in my life who didn't give up on me. Older sibling is the main one. She never gave up on me. She knew somewhere in there was this person hiding, just waiting for someone to see them. And when we see people, when we look at them, not through them, that's when we can talk. That's when we can start settling things. That's when we can learn about one another. So just give it a whirl. See what happens. All right. So I hope everybody, again, has a great, great day. I will talk to everybody either tomorrow or come Monday, whichever. But just know for sure that if I am not back tomorrow, the show will definitely be returning on the 13th. Oh, my favorite number. On Monday the 13th. All right. So have a great, great day, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Please, please, please take care of yourselves and go out there and, go out there and put your light out there. You know, give somebody a hug that might need a hug. Offer a hug. Don't just hug people. That's dangerous nowadays. But, you know, say, hey, if you need a hug, I'm here. All right. And I am sending all of you a hug. Have a great, great day.